Imperial Magistrate reached a verdict. I have guilty or innocent. Spare me this mockery of justice.
So we're back.
Anyway, but
yeah,
we didn't do that though. We actually read
a really
Civil
great
War number 2, front
Yeah.
to back, 100,000 pages long.
Yo, yeah, fucking. I gotta say that I skimmed a little bit because people don't talk that much.
I took it in.
Well, that's good. That's why you're so fucking butthurt about the whole thing.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not happy.
So this was from June to December of 2016. So 4 years ago. Feels like a million years ago. And then an interesting fact: it was 10 years after Civil War, the original one, which was 2006.
Right, which makes I feel super fucking old because that's crazy. That seems crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like it just came out yesterday.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So this comic fucking sucked. Can we just say that right off?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
we've read worse on the Extinction Agenda. Far worse.
That's interesting because I don't. Oh yeah, okay. Well, if you have to fucking dip into the toilet in order to say that we've read worse, then yeah, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay. Well, I'm just saying we've read worse. Listen, as a pure action story, with a fucking antagonist that annoyed the shit out of me, not bad though. You know?
Okay. What you talking about, Tony Stark?
No, I'm talking about fucking Carol and her dumbass.
I guess she is the antagonist, isn't she?
Oh,
I don't
God.
know. This is an interesting question because, like, I guess she's really meant to be a villain in this story, but I think at the same time, she's meant to do good. But yeah, I guess she is the antagonist, though. Yeah.
Okay, that's what they went for in the original Civil War. We went for that in the original Civil War. We took Cap, we took Iron Man. Everybody loves Cap, everybody loves Iron Man. Pure and simple. We put them on two different sides of the coin and gave both sides like an arguing point. And then you could pick your side, right? And I didn't really feel like... I mean, Tony was kind of the antagonist in that story a bit more than Cap was, but he had a valid point. Carol here has no fucking ground to stand on. She has no valid point. She's completely power fucking riddled and out of control. Like, no one can stop her, and she's, like, making these mad, ludicrous arrests of people for crimes that they haven't committed, and she just looks like a fucking pure maniac. Like, it's not even, like, a choose your side. It's like, you choose Iron Man or you're a fucking moron. It's like, that's it. So, like, in that sense, like, that's a major flaw in the story. You may as well have just made it an actual bad guy for them to fight. Like...
Yeah, but I don't know. But the story asks, and I think in essence, it's not a bad question to ask. Okay, so what if the superheroes got a machine that allowed them to predict when crime was going? Like, it's a Minority Report situation. And Iron Man is the anti-Tom Cruise in this story, I guess. He doesn't want to be involved with that project. You still there? Yeah, okay, you cut out for a second.
Yeah, sorry, it kind of hung up on us there. So it's okay.
Okay. I don't know, like, in principle, it's an interesting thought experiment. If you knew, they even bring it up, if you know the little baby Hitler is going to be born, do you kill them? And Carol's answer is yes in this story. And I think that's a legitimate point. Like, that's not necessarily wrong.
It is pretty wrong because if you have the manpower and capacity to know that far in advance, then you easily have the capacity to derail it without committing any crimes against people's personal rights or freedoms or murder them. You know,
I think the way that Bendis gets around that, because that's a super valid counter argument, and I you know, you're absolutely right, but Bendis gets around it in this story by having the Ulysses character, the machine that we're talking about, because he's a fucking MacGuffin. You know, he's the thing that makes the plot move. He's a fucking nothing character. So
yeah,
he might
he's
as well
Cyclops' brother.
Another one. And
A MacGuffin.
Yeah. So anyway, so he's just this plot device, you know, but one thing that allows Bendis to avoid the criticism that you've just laid down is that the machine isn't constantly predicting the future. It's only predicting the future under certain conditions. I mean, like, one, it's sort of random, or it's when he gets all stressed and weirded out, and then two, you know, just flashes of one moment of danger to come, and not everything that happens before, and not anything that happens afterwards. So you never get context. So you're the fog of war is there, and that's what gives Carol some purchase in this story. You've got something to work with. You know it's reliable intelligence. Do you execute based on it? And she's a soldier, so she's gonna do that.
Here's the other problem for me. Now you've got these teams of like extraordinary people, superpowered beings. We got Tony Stark, the fucking the Mac Daddy. We got the Beast. We got the Hank McCoy. We got Bruce fucking Banner. We got everybody. We got everything. Carol has no right or ground to stand on when it comes to making intellectual decisions. They have scientists. One of them's telling you on her side. Yeah. One of them's telling you you're fucking wrong. He wasn't really on her side though. He was on the Inhuman
side. Yeah.
He backpedaled.
He backpedaled when he saw data that led him. You know, he's eminently
data from a scientist, right? Like,
yeah, but that didn't come till later.
Oh man, yeah, but it came before the final battle. Like, Carol had she had nothing to stand on except for that she was just being a bully.
Well, definitely in that last exchange, you know, when everybody's trying to, you know, they're literally saying stop the fight, and I do get the impression, and the one thing that makes her definitely antagonist is that she does press it. I might, you know, maybe going back to the text, I'd see something different, but my recollection is that she presses the fight more than she ought to have, out of I don't know, pride, out of anger, you know, all that shit.
Well, yeah, and that's like, those are like her only driving character traits in this particular story, are like pride, anger, and the fact that she can flex more power than the other heroes, and she comes off as just like this monstrous bully, like an uncontrollable like force to be reckoned with, like as if Superman was a complete fucking fool and just like decided, I'm gonna fucking do whatever I want. I'm gonna arrest motherfuckers. And everybody was like, oh, good God, stop. Like,
the only okay, so I know I can't believe this is a much more interesting conversation than I really thought. You know, fuck you, Bendis, for making us do this. But Carol, again, you know, whatever, okay, fine, she doesn't have like the intel, let's say, the additional context that she requires. And she gets a little bit of it from Hank McCoy, who ends up being like an instrument of the state in this story. Hank can fuck off. And what the fuck was I going to... Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so, but all the other times she showed using this intelligence and executing based upon it, she's always successful. And the only thing that... you know, I guess the Hulk. We got to talk about the Hulk thing, and then we got to talk about that lady with the empty briefcase.
That should have been the fucking end of it.
But I don't know though. I don't know. What they did later proves that she was right. Like a storyline that happened after this, if I remember correctly, proves that she was right. So
the X-Men, the one part of the plot that I did like, I did like find was like a, you know how you do your plot contrivances or whatever. I did like the way that Bendis snuck the X-Men in on Carol's side, because like they have so much at stake and they're always getting killed. They're getting murdered. They're getting butchered. They're getting butchered in their past. They're getting butchered in their future. Any glimpse that could like give them something to cling on to that would predict the future that could save their lives. I mean, they've been looking for that for their entire existence. All the mutants.
Oh wow!
Really.
Yeah.
So like to have the mutants backpack onto her side, made perfect sense to me, and I was like, oh, now I felt more for Carol's side. That was the only time that I felt that there was some justification in Carol's side of this.
Interesting.
But
that is not. Yeah. What? No. Sorry. What you're saying is super interesting. It's a shame that the story doesn't do a better job of teasing out what you just suggested. Like the story doesn't.
I did that for myself, which is probably no fault of Bendis's, because he could have wrote that instead of all the other garbage he wrote. But
that's true. I don't even know if that was because he was writing X-Men at the time. So I just took it as lazy fucking. I'll put the X-Men on my side. But but that's actually. I like your reading much better because it makes good sense. Because I don't. But the reason you're able to do that, and I'm able to think that that's a neat idea, is that no one has any fucking motivation in this story. Like we've been talking about Carol and Tony. Like this is the Carol Tony show, and for reasons that I can't fucking fathom, people choose sides. But I don't feel that anyone like expressed an opinion that placed them one way or the other, or that like why was Thor helping one side rather than the other side? I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense at all. And the other thing too is like the people that joined Captain America in the Civil War, they made sense. They were outcasts. They said why they did it. This story had none of that. It was just like the only person that was actually like had justification and felt like they had some foresight into what this scenario meant was Tony.
Yeah, and I wonder also, and this goes back to something we had said in our earlier conversation, like if She-Hulk hadn't been taken off, because the story begins with She-Hulk in court, and it's all Bendis frames it not as the Minority Report, but as a discussion about free speech, about First Amendment rights, and She-Hulk successful or fails to defend an ex-criminal who was entrapped. And spoke about old times. Hadn't committed a crime, hadn't done anything, but like got themselves into a situation where they got fish hooked, and the story is meant to sort of echo that. And so I bet if because She-Hulk gets so angry at the end of the story that Jennifer Walters might have been another moral voice, but in classic Bendis fashion, he had her badly injured and almost killed, and then wiped off the board and turned into a non-character.
Right, yeah, that was weird. That was a weird choice too, because like he was leading with her. And I was kind of buying into it, and I was sort of enjoying her character development in the beginning of the story. So it's such a weird choice to just be like, kibosh that.
Yeah, but she just got a missile in the stomach. And then it's going to be the Carol show, and you're like, well, I don't know anything about Carol. Like the only thing I learned about Carol in this story is that she was, and I don't feel that this is a genuine, like I didn't know they were an item. She wasn't in love with War Machine, with Rhodey. Like I didn't know that, and the story only spends 2 seconds showing us that that's the case, not making us feel it. And then Rhodey dies.
And
stupidly.
She turns into this like maniacal like tool of the government, like
in response, which is fair. I mean, like, because behind all of, and it's a weird, this is weird to say, tool of Obama. Like Bendis is writing this. Obama is still president, and it begins with Rhodey being offered position of Secretary of Defense or something like that, in order to groom him to be president, and it ends with Carol being given, "Oh, we're going to give you a blank check after you've failed spectacularly. Here you go. You can do whatever you want." And it really features the president, and it really centers American power. And
the Civil War did that too.
Not so much though. I don't know. That's not my recollection. Maybe Bush was hanging around, because it would have been Bush at that time.
I got a funny question for you.
Sure.
In writing a story like this, you prefer to have the anonymous style president, or the cheesy dated version of whatever president's in office at that time in history? What do you like better?
I kind of want my cake and eat it too. I want those stories where the story really shows you that it's Nixon, but they never draw Nixon's face, or Obama or Bush or anything. These stories exist in a particular time. I know that Marvel's in the job of selling timeless classics or whatever, but that's stupid. Our stories are of our moment. So I want a little bit of that. I want to, even if it makes no sense 20 years from now, I don't care. I'm living in the present now.
I remember a couple Marvel comics way back that had George W. And I really didn't mind that. Looking back. At the time, it probably annoyed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only book that really pressed hard on George Bush is The Ultimates. Laura! What a fucking prick. Man. So anyway.
Good. Hawkeye also had motivation for his behavior when he murdered Bruce Banner. They at least flesh out a backstory for that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that that society acquit him, for killing. It kind of, I don't know. It doesn't speak to our moment because there's not a racial element to it. But isn't this society condoning police brutality? Isn't that what that moment is?
No, there was fairly compelling evidence that.
There isn't.
That the Hulk or that Bruce Banner requested him to do that. He even provided. He's unkillable, and he provided a tool.
The only evidence that proves that, and I'm using air quotes, the only evidence that proves that Bruce was going to transform into the Hulk and therefore become a danger to everyone, is that Hawkeye says, "I have better vision than everyone else. I saw his eyes flash green."
Okay, that's true. He does have better vision than everyone else.
Oh yeah, and so it's potentially plausible, but I mean, you can see how that's he doesn't. It's his word against yours, in the same way that it would be a police officer's word against yours. I saw him reach for a gun. I got better eyes than
Right.
That's what
true.
That's what Bendis is going for in this. I mean, in this, again, I really got to emphasize this story sucks. We're having a really animated discussion about its philosophy and whatever, but this book is fucking garbage. And so I don't want anyone.
Dude, I got fired up reading this. I couldn't put it down because I was so mad. I was like, someone stop this horrible Captain Marvel.
Yeah. No, it was really frustrating and really 8 issues of this. What the fuck, man?
And the Guardians of the Galaxy had they had no business there. None of them had any personality or backstory or reasoning, except for we're friends with Carol. That's legitimately what was written down on paper. And then he basically used the movie personalities. Oh man, what the hell?
Bendis was writing the X-Men and Guardians of the Galaxy at this time.
So I didn't know that. So I read the X-Men part a little more elaborately than you did.
Yeah. No, I think it's just, but he just dumps him in, because and it kind of shows whose team he's on a little bit. And I think actually we already emphasized that, the fact that at the end, even though Carol fucking shit the bed, President Obama is just like, I'm going to give you a blank check, because that's what Bendis wants to see. That's what's next. I guess, I don't know if it's explicitly there, but it's implied by his choices.
Okay, so after Bruce Banner's horrifically murdered, and then gets off, all because Carol decided that he needed to be viciously confronted, or I guess everybody did. They went together in that instance.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, everybody experienced that dude's vision, so everybody was scared shitless, and they were like, okay, we're all going to show up.
Right.
But we don't agree on what we're going to do.
And put themselves in a volatile situation with a guy who...
Yeah, they probably should have sent a negotiator.
That was Iron Man's... Or they could have sent Tony with no armor on his own just to have a conversation with him. Like, they basically, it's almost like they fulfilled their own future, which Tony was afraid of.
Yeah.
That's
a good point.
It's so stupid. That's so rudimentary. Like a group of those powerful, intelligent individuals wouldn't do that.
No, especially if they had any experience with law enforcement. Why
wouldn't you just have?
It's the equivalent of the FBI showing up with 30 people to raid your house,
and then just being like, "Yeah, we just want to talk." What? You have a SWAT team.
What? Yeah. Do you really want to talk? I'm nervous.
For a guy that shouldn't get nervous, you could have just had Doctor Strange teleport Tony in a suit and fucking small talk the guy.
Yeah, anything. There's so many choices. Put the fucker to sleep. Hit him with a tranq dart. Calm him down. If you're gonna be aggressive, be smart aggressive.
Hawkeye calmed him down.
He sure fucking did. Shot him in the head.
Awesome, by the way, in terms of just like pure action shock moments.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I had read, I actually bought this issue, this particular issue with, or that particular issue with the death of the Hulk, not knowing that it was going to involve the death of the Hulk, but I had bought it. So the surprise was ruined.
So then, after everything escalates, Carol then arrests a random businesswoman who's exchanging her briefcase.
Well, she's also part of... Okay, so this is also a universe in which Nick Fury is real, and super spy, or like James Bond shit, is real as well. And Carol knows this. And so Carol doesn't... She finds something suspicious with someone who's supposedly Hydra, and she knows not to trust her eyes, and not necessarily to trust the evidence in the paper trail. Is what I read from that. She just... And unfortunately, Marvel Comics gives you reason to say that Carol was right, because later on, like a year later, Hydra, there's this big Hydra story where they take over America. So you don't know that when you read it, but in the end, she's right.
Oh, that woman was actually a spy?
That's the strong implication of stuff that comes later. And actually, it turns out, like, through some sort of fucking cosmic cube thing, that Captain America's been Hydra this whole time.
That's so fucking stupid.
Oh, yeah. Everybody did not, especially with racist grandpa coming to power, they did not want to see Captain America become a fascist who controls America. It was really tone deaf. Anyway, it's dumb. So I can't help but read that knowing that Bendis knew that was the next crossover. That's what he was setting up. I see it all in those terms, and unfortunately, like, he's revealed to be right. But let's assume for the moment that that stuff doesn't happen, and we only have the text. She still accuses her of being Hydra. She still accuses her of being James Bond's adversary. Like we created a deep mole. We faked all that shit. Why does she have a fake empty briefcase? That's a stupid explanation. I'm gonna replace it.
But yeah, it just seems like also that Carol is, like, under no circumstances should she be interrogating anyone. That's not her job. They have a
well,
professional spy organization handling it. Like,
right.
she's just a big moron. She's just a big moron with superpowers. What are you going to do, shake her? Like, come on. Anyway, it was just like, it was so hollow. And then from my context, without having any other story to go off of, I basically just saw this as like this lovely businesswoman who liked karaoke, and Carol was completely wrong from top to bottom, and just arrested and terrorized this woman, basically taking away her freedoms and rights for no apparent reason as a complete maniac. And then continuing on as if she was correct. Which is
not doubting.
That's ludicrous. You should at least be doubting yourself by that point.
I think they want... Yeah, well, Okay, so here's how I think Bendis gets around this as well. I think we're meant to feel that she's sublimating her like another. I don't know if we pressed on this enough. Like, they really make a point of showing telling us that she's anguished about the death of her boyfriend. So her aggression and anger is supposed to be like a reflection of her sadness. And her increased aggression, as she's revealed to be wrong, is I don't know, her trying to fucking defend her ego or whatever. Right. But that's not good. No,
and there's a couple issues with that. I never once felt like she was feeling anguish over the death of her boyfriend or whatever. Yeah. Not once. She didn't say it. She didn't go and cry somewhere. She didn't go back to the body or the grave, or there was none of that. She just looked like a total maniacal lunatic.
With a black eye.
In addition to that, she also, basically, in a nutshell, Ulysses and this whole plan she had killed him. Just like Tony said, she killed him. He
ascended to godhood. Potato.
Sure, whatever. It was like it's just like she assisted in like him being in a fight scenario where he was murdered. And she just like takes no ownership of that. Like, it's not like and then she makes another mistake. You know what I mean? Like, that shouldn't compound your belief that you're doing something correct. It wouldn't in any normal scenario. So it just became like, I don't know. And there was at no point where it was easy to sell this scenario, and it just got worse. Like, with a weird briefcase thing. Like, I would have omitted that completely upon reading the script. Like,
I think Bendis, whether consciously or unconsciously, because again, I really think he's siding with Carol in this story, if not explicitly, then implicitly with like his having the Guardians of the Galaxy and the X-Men. Like, basically, like, his whole writing Marvel career is just weighted onto Carol's side. And when you say, so Carol in this is extremely, let's say she's right wing. Let's just label it right wing. Because it's state authority, it's policing, it's act now, think later, or don't think at all. Just action on the intelligence, keep the homeland safe. You were talking about how, like, it makes no sense that her mistakes don't make her feel that she's wrong. It makes her feel that she's right. And I don't know. I just think about some conservative commentators who when they feel that they're being criticized, use that as a barometer of how right they are about an issue. But I don't know if that's, obviously Bendis isn't meant to do that, but I guess I'm just saying that maybe it's fitting.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really read it that way. I mean, like, maybe it's because I'm such a lefty or whatever that I am, side with Iron Man as the only logical person to side with in this story, and it's like ludicrous and that Carol has no ground to stand on. But
so
maybe there is some empathy for her plight or whatever.
No, I don't know. I don't really support either side. I don't think Tony's necessarily okay, here's what I get from this story. I bet if this is a story about, not a story. It's getting back to the machine. The machine can predict the future, sort of, specific moments. Remember when they confront Carol and she's like, okay, so what if the machine is 70% accurate or 50, 40, and then even goes down to 10% accurate? Do you use this intelligence? I think the difference between Carol and Tony is that Carol will use 10% accuracy of the future, but I bet Tony, if that machine produced 70 or 80% reliable intelligence, I bet Tony would use it. Like, I don't feel anyone in this story is absolutely opposed to policing the future. I just think that Tony wants a better machine.
Well, I think that's the big thing with Tony, is that, like, there are things about Tony Stark and Iron Man that are not likable, and the things that they use to make him not likable, the tools that they use for that, like his arrogance, his money. He's not a common person. This isn't somebody that, like, you can easily empathize with. He doesn't celebrate with a beer. You know, he's not Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not
Elon Musk.
Yeah, he's not likable. He's not. But he's an arrogant prick. He's an alcoholic. He's a real. There are some real aspects to his personality that you can get behind. There are other things like the things that he does and that he's capable of are like, those are set in stone, you know. And it's just like, he, even in the first Civil War, he's not likable at all.
Oh, no, he's a villain.
No, yeah, but just in this scenario, like, he's doing I don't know, he's just doing the right thing, and he's just so correct that it's like there's no other way to get around it. Like, he's just like you couldn't. Could you kill or arrest someone on a 10% likelihood that something would happen? That's ridiculous. That's like a joke.
No. Yeah, you're right.
There's almost no possibility it would happen at all. Like, so that she's just so way out wrong that, like, even his terrible moral compass seems totally fine.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
It's weird choices all around. This book, I'm gonna say that this book didn't need to exist.
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
I was surprised
it was like,
by how fired up I got. That's about all I got from it. But
yeah, well, it was a piece of fucking shit. You know, and it asks a moral question that no one that is almost unintelligible. Like, when you really, in the way that we've discussed it tonight, basically, I feel we've summed it up like this. This is a stupid conversation that was given dramatic expression. That's it.
Yeah, and it's also like, you took a beloved hero like Marvel Girl. Captain Marvel, excuse me. You took Captain Marvel, beloved characters, and Iron Man, and you made this other cast of characters, and you made them all morons for the purpose of your narrative.
Right.
And that's like that's cool when Ridley Scott does it in Alien Covenant, because he's using throwaway characters that are going to die. But when you use characters that already have, like, established skill sets and personalities and just make them all dipshits so that you can have like a nerd argument, it just comes off dumb. It's a whole thing.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.